Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of So What Is Your Point? Today, Steve and I are talking about 4 ways to screw up a presentation. Now, we all hope that our presentations go really smoothly and that we leave our audience feeling like they really got something of value from our talk. But sometimes problems do occur. And today we're going to highlight these 4 ways, and Stephen and I will give you some ideas on how to avoid these issues. Right, Steve?
An episode or two ago, we talked about if you can speak, you can influence. If you can influence, you can change lives. But not if you give a poor presentation. So let's talk about this. Next slide there, Roger. First thing you got to do is know your audience. If you're doing a presentation at a conference or some sort of group meeting, you want to know your audience. So the important thing is to not just talk to the person who invited you, but get 3 or 4 or 5 names of individuals who are going to be attending that you can interview and get their perspectives, their thoughts on the topic you're going to be speaking about. So you can reference those comments that they give as you give your talk and refer to that individual as providing that insight.
The one thing I've seen, Steve, is many times really very good speakers go out into the audience prior to their presentation and start conversations with several people and ask them, what were you hoping to learn from this talk today, and some of those kinds of things, so that they could really tune in to specific people, and that helps them know their audience more effectively.
That adds to it. I would do both, frankly, but at minimum, call them in advance. But if you're there and you have a chance to talk and get their perspectives on what they would like to learn, that's great too.
Right.
So do online research of the organization, the company that you're working with. If you're going to do a sales presentation, you definitely want to do online research to get to know LinkedIn profiles, the people you're going to be talking to. You want to know the company, its business, and its philosophy, and what have you. Know in advance what your audience is really about. So we talked about interviewing 4 to 8 participants. Next one. The next problem you have is poor use of time. And there's a number of aspects of this. Roger, you've seen it happen many times where speakers go way over their time limit.
And it's usually because they're yakking about ridiculous things that nobody's interested in.
That happens. Also, many speakers spend so much time talking about themselves, or if you're doing a presentation to a company, you're talking about your company. Don't do that. Get right into your topic. Don't waste their time with stuff that really is not important to them. It might be important to you, but it's not important to them.
And so often you can tell when speakers start, many times they want to yak about, so can everybody hear me?
Right.
Can everybody see the slides? And it's really some things that they should have tested out prior to starting the presentation.
Right. Next slide. Memorize the first 5 minutes of your presentation. Start right off. Don't say, hey, I'm glad to be here, or whatever have you. Just start right off with your presentation and memorize the last 10 minutes of your presentation. So you have it down and you can get your call to action in there in a nice, effective manner. Next one. End on time. Make a point of ending on time. Watch your progress as you go. Know when you have to cut some things out of your content, and know what content you can cut quickly to make sure you are ending on time.
And if you are using slides, I believe there's a timer there, so you can tell what time your presentation is going to end, and it's timing it as it goes.
Right. And pay attention to that. A professional speaker knows how much time they've used and how much time they have, and they don't have to rush the ending. Next thing is not involving the audience. It's important to get people involved in today, particularly today. So when you're giving information, take time, break the group into pairs or dyads meaning three, of people to have a conversation about what you just got through telling them. That it engages, in fact, make them stand up when they do it. What that does is it gets them involved, it gets them energized, it helps them remember what it is you just got through telling them. See, the brain can only pay attention to about 10 to 12 minutes before it leaves the room, literally. So if you get them engaged, standing up, doing something different than just listening to you, they pay much better attention and they get more out of it. And again, it helps you influence the outcome of what you want them to do. Ask for questions. That's another way of engaging.
And also, people have a tendency sometimes to wait to the last to open it up for questions. And it's better not to close on questions, but have closing remarks after questions.
So if you're doing an hour-long presentation and you start on time, at 40 minutes, you ought to be taking questions for 10 minutes and then have your close for 10 minutes and you complete then on time. One of the things I find useful is when you ask a question or someone asks you a question, don't answer it immediately. Say, I've got a thought on that, but let's ask the rest of the group who has an idea on how we might resolve that issue or how we might answer that question. Involve the audience. It's a very positive way to get people engaged and they remember better.
And people feel good, especially those that are involved in answering the question. They feel really good about having the right answer.
Right. So participant activities I just mentioned with dyads and triads, whatever have you. So go on to the next one. This one gets me all the time. A heavy use of filler words. So what are filler words? The next slide there, let's get some filler word examples. Like, filler words. Any words that you use frequently as you're doing your presentation. Try and practice not having filler words in your presentation. People look at that as this person isn't that intelligent because they're using all these filler words.
If you really know your content, Steve, some of this will take care of itself.
It will.
But if you're flailing around trying to figure out what you were going to say next and haven't really spent the time practicing your talk, then these are going to creep in like crazy.
Right. So one of the things that, and I just use so, that's a filler word as well. When you have to think about something, instead of saying so or just be quiet. Don't say anything. Silence actually creates tension and people want to know what's coming next. So it's better to use silence.
And some people say, well, think about your talk. And if you reach a point where there's going to be silence, just put a period at the end of the sentence.
Yeah.
So it makes a more of a natural stop. And then you can continue on when you have your next thought.
Right. Next slide. So just to make it easy, we talked about not knowing your audience, big mistake. Poor use of your time, terrible mistake. Not involving your audience, an inability to influence at this point in time, and a heavy use of filler words. Those are 4 things that will mess up your presentation.
Okay, so hopefully that raises your awareness of these things and you can eliminate them from your next presentation. So we hope this helped you out. Review these notes and go through this a couple times so that you can really be aware of, avoiding these particular problems. So we look forward to talking to you next time on So What Is Your Point? Bye for now.